Will you ever be good enough in his eyes? You've been in this relationship for several years now, and you're struggling, wondering, will I ever be good enough in his eyes? Because everything you've done over the past couple of years doesn't seem to be good enough. You're wondering who you actually are. You're struggling because your self-worth that used to feel so high, your confidence level that used to be elite is no longer there. And you're wondering, what did I do wrong? How can I do this better? Why can't I do this good enough for him? Have you ever had these questions? A lot of times when people are in a toxic relationship, they start to evaluate their worth and their value based on the other person. And this question starts to permeate their minds oftentimes of, why was I not good enough for him? Now, you could be thinking this in the relationship, or you could be thinking this out of the relationship. Either way, it still applies. And either way, we see it prevalent in clients that we serve that come to Raw Motivations. And they're like, hey, I don't understand. Why wasn't I good enough? Now, sometimes we see this when the narcissist has already left you. He left you, he ghosted you, and he moved on with a new supply. A new person all of a sudden showed up in your sphere of influence of like, wait a second, how is he with this person? And then he leaves, he walks away, and you're just like, wait a second, you just threw away 5 years, 20 years, whatever it might be for this person. Why was I not good enough? This question oftentimes haunts people so much inside of narcissistic abuse. You have to understand where the question comes from. When I initially had people start to question me and be like, hey, why this? Like, why am I not good enough for him? In my mind, it was really hard to compute. Okay, in my mind, it was really hard to understand what people were asking and where they were coming from. And I don't mean just this on like a, hey, I didn't understand it. I meant like from a narcissistic side, I actually didn't get that, which is really interesting. Because for me, I'm like looking at it from his side and I'm like, okay, why are you not good enough for him? And I'm like, he doesn't, there's a piece there, he doesn't really care if you're good enough or not. Like it actually doesn't matter. And so people oftentimes are like, but I want to be good enough for him. And the narcissist is like, I'm not even evaluating you on whatever standard you think that you're being evaluated on. And so people are like, well, my worth, it doesn't feel as much. Like if I would have done something different, maybe you would have stayed. And the narcissist on the other side is like, nope, doesn't have anything to do with you. It just happens to do with what I want. Here's the piece that's hard for people to understand. When you're asking this question, why was I not good enough for him? He doesn't care. Like he doesn't care of your worth. He doesn't care of your value. He doesn't care if you're quote unquote good enough or not. It's not going to change the end result of what he actually wants. You see, you could modify and you could change everything about you in the relationship. And some of you watching this already have. Like not just you've changed your hairstyle or you've changed like the clothes that you wear, but you've changed your whole personality to fit under him. To be subservient to how he domineers, of how he controls, of how he manipulates you. You've had to modify yourself, even in sometimes toxic ways, to try to fit under the mold without getting called out, yelled, raged at, ghosted, no contact, like whatever it might be. And so you're going to see a lot of times that you're going to modify and change so many different things in the relationship, and he's not. Like, I want you to take a pause and think for a moment, like, how much have you changed from the beginning of the relationship till now? And then how much has he changed? Because oftentimes in a toxic relationship, you will find the one person, the person who's getting abused over and over, continue to modify and change and adjust their behavior because you're thinking that you're not good enough and you have to change something in order to be accepted, validated, and loved. And then you have the toxic person that's like, why would I change anything? I like who I am. This is fun because I'm in control of this person and they keep serving me. So you have this question then of like, why was I not good enough? Sometimes this is then putting you into the place of comparison. Now you need to understand comparison is the thief of joy. Like comparison takes away your possibility of joy, of happiness, of connectedness, of loving. Like it takes so much away because you're spending so much time comparing you typically to the next supply or you to a certain version of you that magically would make him change, grow, and develop. Which wouldn't happen because it doesn't come from you. It has to come from him. If he changes for you, he'll revert back every single time. And so you have to understand when you're thinking through this question, why was I not good enough? You're starting to take your value and you're starting to put your value in the hands of another person. Do you know what that actually means? If we say it in a different light, it means that your value is victim to his perspective. That's what it is. Your value as a human being is a victim to his perspective. Why do I say it that way? Because he controls you. Because you're addicted in the mindset and the thought process. You're confused. And I get it. And so many people are when they come to Raw Motivations. They're like, hey, I don't get this. Why is this happening? And it's because the narcissist is taking his time to fabricate stories, to manufacture your emotions, to manipulate you, to confuse you, to gaslight you, so you think that your worth and your value are dictated by him. Can I just tell you for a moment that that's a lie? It's a lie that you believe from the toxic person. That's a lie that he's manufactured. And that's a lie that you start to accept. And as a result, you start to think, if I would have done something different, if I would have done something better, if I could have just been good enough, then he wouldn't have cheated, then he wouldn't have left, then he wouldn't have insert whatever. The hard part is you start to get to the place where you beat yourself up more and more and more. It doesn't let you live. Like, it doesn't let you actually be who you want to be. Instead, it leaves you stuck in the mind. Stuck in this like mental prison, kind of reminiscing and ruminating and going back and forth over and over, being like, I should have done this differently. I shouldn't have said it that way. I should have said it this way. And you start beating yourself up because you're like, there's a million different things I could have done better. And maybe he still would have been here. Maybe he wouldn't have cheated on me if I would have done X, Y, and Z. And I can tell you from talking to so many people that no matter what you do, it doesn't change the end result. It either lengthens it or shortens the time involved. No matter what you do, it doesn't change the end result. It only lengthens or shortens the time involved. You see, the toxic person, he's not caring about your value. He's not focused on your worth. He's not focused on any of that. He's focused on what he wants. And if that means, hey, I want this and I can't do it unless you're distracted, then let me beat you down so you don't have enough worth. So you're going to keep following me versus actually seeing who I actually am. The narcissist wants to keep you in a fog. If he keeps you in a fog, you won't do anything. If he keeps you in fear, you won't make a move. If he keeps you guilty, you will stay stuck. You have to understand, this is a manipulative action and behavior of trying to make you feel like your worth and your value are dependent on his perspective. He does that so that you stay stuck. He does that so you don't move. He does that so you don't get free. Your value doesn't come from another person. Your value doesn't come from the person who beats you. Your value doesn't come from the person who cheats on you. Your worth is not defined by how many times he stepped out on you. Your worth is not defined by how he treats you and how he talks to you and how he belittles you. That doesn't define your worth. What defines you is your actions that you're going to take on a day-to-day basis. Some of you are going to see this video and you're going to continue walking away and just doing the stuff that you normally do, staying in the relationship, staying in the rumination, and those actions define who you are. And then you're going to have other people that are going to see this and they're going to be like, okay, I need to make a change. You implement something different, you start working on you join some of our challenges, whatever it might be. That defines you. The question is, what are you willing to be defined as today? What is your actual worth defined on? Is it on his perspective or on your actions today? The whole phrase, action speaks louder than words, is 100% accurate. Too many people come to Raw Motivations and too many people watch the content that say they want healing, but then refuse to act on it. We're in an age of consumers. People just consume content, right? Consuming it over and over and over again. Well, when you keep doing that and you don't do any action, you start to betray yourself. Starts to put you in a shame cycle where you start to feel like you're not worthy of actually getting healed because you're not taking any action. And then you sit back and be like, well, I'll watch one more video, then I'll have the motivation to do what I need to do. You won't. Because motivation doesn't come from hype, doesn't come from this excitement piece, doesn't come from anything else except you actually having movement. You doing what you need to do provides more motivation than anything else because you show up confident for you because you actually said what you're going to do and you did it. So as you're watching this today, what defines your worth? What proves to you that you're actually good enough? It's not his perspective. It's not his view of you. It's how you're showing up now on a day-to-day basis. If you'd like any help with this, go to rawmotivations.com. Would love to be able to talk to you. Love to be able to help you move forward in your healing, your growth, and your development. You have a blessed day.